Hello again, everyone. This is Kaz Beelan, and it's Casual Conversations, a program where we talk to people who are very cool, important in the world. And this is the fourth quarter, like October 2025. We believe that we're recording this at this time, and we have our special guest who's back every quarter. He just keeps coming back here because he's got really cool information for us. It's Joe Peters, the famous realtor, Mr. Know-It-All, who's been around, seen everything, knows everything, and sometimes he can tell the future. Welcome back, Joe.
I don't know if he's as famous as you say, but he is cool.
It's awesome. Look, I hear all kind of crazy stuff with the market. I hear Miami's crashing, market. That's what I hear all over the crazy
Right.
media there. New Jersey, and the big thing was okay. The rates are when they come down, things will be glorious and everything ready. The rates are they coming down? Is that
No,
helping? What's going on with New
they
Jersey?
are not coming down. They came down a quarter of a point as far as the Fed rate went, but the Fed doesn't drive the 10-year bond, and the 10-year bond has gone up because it's more difficult to sell bonds with the uncertainties. So once the 10-year bond comes down, rates will come down. But listened to a noted speaker yesterday, and he said they're about six and a quarter now. He sees them going up to 6.6, 6.7, and then drifting down closer to 6 by end of year. So temporarily, we're not out of the woods yet, but we're on the way in the right direction. Now, what's happening in Florida is a total different story, and that is they overbuilt and oversold, and they have insurance problems. We have insurance problems here in New Jersey. I'll tell you a quick story about it later. But in Florida, the insurance, these people took their money, they went down and bought a condo, and it was running them $1,200 a month mortgage payments. Now it's like $3,000. They can't afford to live there. So there's so much on the market because of the insurance, because of hurricanes and the building falling down about 4 or 5 years ago, that it's been very so. Once again, we're back to that hyper market thing. It's a very local market. Miami, Texas, West Coast are not in good shape. New Jersey's in great shape. We're still sitting on statewide somewhere around 2.2 months of inventory. Now, what does that mean? If you stop listing any more properties, what we have would sell in 2.2 months, and we'd be out of inventory. So we're in good shape. It's typically somewhere between 4 and 6 months. It went up though. I mean, it's normalizing by going up. It'll probably by the end of the year, we're going to be at 4%. We're up 4%, or I say not 4%, but 4 months supply. We're at 4 months supply in the over $1 million properties already. So, and it always comes from the top down because there's less buyers up at the top. And we have inventory. It's an interesting phenomenon. We have 40% more inventory than we had last year, and we sell 1% less houses than we did last year. And the reason for it is, you might ask, it's like I'm 6'4". When I walk through the store, I always have some little old lady saying, "Sonny," I love it when they call me Sonny. "Can you get the piece off the top shelf for me?" Well, the inventory's up too high. The inventory gets itself down under 500. Anything under 500 sells immediately. 600 is pretty active. 700 starts to slow down a little. So the only thing that I can say is because there's 40% more inventory, you have more competition than you did a year ago. So there's 40% more. If there were 100 houses on the market last year in your market, there's now 140 on the market based on that. And the quicker you get your house listed and sold, we do not see prices going down in New Jersey over the next 3 years. We can't see any further than that. But we're seeing this year probably be a 4 to 5% increase. It's been 5% average over the last 50 years, including the crazy years of COVID. And we're getting back to normal.
Joe, just want to remind people that it's Joe Peters who we're talking to. So if you're watching the video version, you could see his nameplate is right above his head there on that side. And his phone number is 908-304-4660. You can call him up and ask him what kind of stuff, and whether you're buying or selling a house or thinking about it or trying to help your neighbor and recommend Joe. It's really great, and there's also an audio version. So if you don't like the way we look, as I always what we're wearing, you can just look away from the screen, or you can drive along the way and listen, or exercise in the morning or at the gym. Plug us in your ear, and you can listen and learn cool stuff about real estate.
Right.
Because Joe's in the know about all that stuff. We're that
Yeah,
time.
I've been doing real estate for about 22 years now, the last 14 full time. And um, it's a great career for somebody who loves people, who loves process, and understands houses. We get a lot of
Hmm.
people get in and sell 2 or 3 houses a year. They're still novices. For somebody who's been around, sold probably 500 houses at this point in time. For me, it's a joy. I just like working with people and helping them. My thing on my business card is helping you to achieve your goals and dreams across both Hunterdon and Somerset County. So that's what I
Yeah.
like to do, help you achieve it.
Well, that's on the screen right there, right
There
below.
you
You
go.
can see it if you're watching us, of course.
Oh,
But
yeah.
please do and subscribe and all kind of stuff to get more information. Joe has his own podcast and great website as well. So I think you're talking about jobs. Trade jobs are making a comeback, I think, sort of.
Right.
Newark just opened a brand new academy, which is basically for trade type jobs. The different ones. So because all this building and everything, I mean, someone's going to have to go fix those pipes if there's a leak or electrical issue or something. I don't think robots can handle that right now, at least for a lot of years. So that's how job kind of New Jersey is helping to create that,
I
I think.
talked about this morning, and I have Mike McDonough, who runs Raritan Valley Community College, on once a year. As a matter of fact, I'm
Mhm.
about due to ask him on again. And he says if you let your child go to whatever college you went to get and get the same degree that you got, you're going to probably wind up with $250,000 in debt, and they're going to earn about 45, 50,000 when they come up. He says, you give me your child for 2 years. 7,300 was the last quote I heard for his tuition. Now he can live on campus at Middlesex County. And he says, I'll put him to work because we're training them with skills that we need here in the county. I'll put them to work for $90,000 right here in the county. Twice the price. And the
Yeah.
skills we need, because we're not trading them in things that we don't need anymore. I think what's going to happen with AI, there's always this fear, uncertainty, and doubt that sells everything, but FUD, we call it. AI is going to take a lot of jobs.
Mhm.
And when those jobs are gone, these people have to be retrained. And if they can't be retrained, they're going to become a burden. And that's a burden to the state. Um,
Yeah.
so I think one of the things when I talked to Jim this morning, my podcast with him is on my site as well, jpeters.com. He said, I had a guy come out he said, let me just tell you how AI works. He said, I had a guy come out and fix my washing machine. And he took the part out and he says, this guy didn't know what that part was. He says, it's broke. I can see this is stopping this from happening. So he took a picture of it, sent it in, and within 5 minutes, the computer not only told him what to do, but how to replace it and ordered the part for him. Said, it'll be here tomorrow, come back and put it in. So right from your phone, you've got AI. I mean, I've got on my phone and my watch, I could hit a button on my watch and say, who's the Giants starting quarterback this week? And it'll start a conversation. So it looks like it's going to be the new guy, Jason Dart. I said, what happens if he goes down? Well, you'll probably drop back to the last guy.
Mhm.
It's amazing what chatbots can do for you because you could stop it mid-sentence and ask it another question like you're talking to a person. And it's really some computer looking this stuff up. We have this instant need for gratification that we never had 5 years ago. Where Marilyn and I were sitting watching because the Winter Olympics are coming on again this year, the ski jumps, and I forget where they were last year. But I said, I wonder what the wind is. So I said to my watch, what's the wind conditions and blah, blah, blah. And this is 114 miles away. They gave me the temperature, it gave me the wind, it gave me the precipitation. It's
Yeah.
like, you could never look that up. You could never find it before. So I think job-wise, jobs are a problem. And I think you're always going to have, it's like a bridge builder. People are looking at me, one hand's higher than the other, and there's a gap between the two. We build bridges that need to match, and we're never going to get the exact number of people and the
I'm
exact
just checking my watch for something here, okay? So don't you keep going. I
the
think
exact
maybe we should rename you AI Joe Peters
AI
because
joke.
you're the human AI of real estate.
Well,
There's your new
I was in
headline.
IT. I was in IT all my life, and all the way back in the '90s, they were saying, "Well, you're going to replace everybody's job." And I'm saying, if it replaces your job, you don't have a job that's we're having. You need. We're going to release you so you can do more meaningful work. It's the same thing here. There's going to be different jobs, but they
Yeah.
may not be where you're at, and that's the problem. You get that
Mhm.
mismatch of we've got the right skilled people in the wrong place, and they don't want to move.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the school and saying they can get certain jobs, different type of labor than just someone, programming at
Even
a desk.
even the high schools. I went to Somerset County's VOTEC
Mhm.
presentation last year. I was blown away what they're doing in Somerset County. It's right there in Bridgewater behind the
Yeah.
Commons, and they have this whole campus of jobs, people
Mhm.
being trained. I mean, the one thing the guy said, he had computerized welding going on,
Yeah.
and I said, "Who is the best welder, best person?" He said, "Believe it or not, females. We'd have much
Mhm.
more success in training and employing females as welders. Welders make really good money anymore,
Yeah.
and it's not like they're doing what they were doing, hanging off the side of a skyscraper anymore. It's
Right.
computer aided um, welding."
Well, I know PSCNG has a program, the old song Wichita Lineman, the people who, it's male,
Right.
female too, who go and put the power lines when a storm goes out. But they pretty much have a program. They'll train you for free, basically everything, and then guarantee you a job which pays so much money because that is such a specific job. You just can't take that anywhere. And
Right.
lines will go down no matter what, unless they're underground, but then they have to dig them
Yeah.
up and do other stuff. So they have a program for that, which very few people know. They a township meeting I was at, they came over, gave a presentation, like they pretty much guaranteed the job after you're done making 100
That's
grand
cool.
or in that area. But people don't know that, or certain people aren't into going to college. They just want to go in and work for a living and make
And
decent
some
money.
don't. Of my five kids, three of them didn't go to college, and
Yeah,
all of them are about equal pay wise. So you find a way to earn enough money to pay your bills. Of course, if you get an advanced degree like medical or science, you could probably earn some more. But Mike McDonough said something that was very interesting, and that is he doesn't see people going out and getting a 4-year degree anymore. He sees maybe a 3-year degree at a
hmm
community college plus about 12 credits and something that will keep changing. You're going to have to come back every 6, 9, 12 months and get retrained on the latest reiteration of whatever that technology is. But we're training people to fill the gaps in our economy versus training people on the fly, hoping there's a job somewhere for something mom majored in and she never used.
Well, it's talking about a supply and demand of people for jobs. But getting back to, we're talking about real estate. You said there's still a shortage, even though we had 40% of inventory. There's still, I mean,
There's a
it,
shortage of houses under $400,000. If a house comes on under 400, priced right and in decent, clean condition, it probably sells the first day it's on the market across both counties.
mhm,
That's where our first-time buyers are. Now, the first-time buyers are starting to rent. And instead, because they can't find anything. So if you stop at a red light, we talked about this last time, you don't see new housing projects going up, you see new apartments going up. So here's what I've seen happen recently, and I talked to Jim about this a little bit this morning, is we're starting to build to rent communities, full-size houses, versus
mhm,
build to buy. We're starting it in Texas and Florida, but people like Berkshire Hathaway, who pulled all their money out of Apple about 15 months ago, have put all of that money back into build to rents. So this may be part of the solution. And what Jim was saying to me was very interesting, and that is that, well, you go out and you get into a really nice rental. I just saw this happen on a sale. You go out and you get into a really nice rental, or you buy your first house and it's a townhouse and it's built in the last 10, 15 years. And now you buy your first house. And in order to get into the real estate market, you have to drop back to a 1970s house because you can't afford anything bigger than that, newer than that. Well, you're dropping a grandpa's generation now. The sinks The cabinets, the countertops are all below standard versus what you're used to. So these people are having a difficult time doing it. And they're getting married later and they're buying houses later. We used to buy our first house at 29 years old. We're getting married around 35, the male, and 32, a female. And then we're buying our first house at around 38 and 35. If you've lived in a really nice community in a townhouse or whatever, you may not be susceptible to single family ownership because you were spoiled the other way.
Yeah. So, what do you think about are foreclosures an issue?
No.
Economy out of COVID, is foreclosures still a big thing, and buying a foreclosure home?
Very interesting. I looked that up before we talked. By the way, foreclosure filings in New Jersey reported to have decreased year over year, most recently down 18.5%. Still, New Jersey ranks 10th worst state of the 50 states. Nevada, we don't care about Nevada. But in 2024, New Jersey had 441 total foreclosures. And in 2025, they had 1175. So dropping 1,400 to roughly 1,200. We're going in the right direction. Foreclosures, there's no bubble like last time. Last time, we were giving people mortgages. This was 2008 when we had the bust. That never should have gotten a mortgage. They didn't understand finances. They didn't understand debt. They weren't qualified to have a mortgage. And guess what? They defaulted. And we got, as a nation, really burned. It took about 2015 to get back on our feet. We're not there anymore. We've made enough banking regulations that can't happen again. So
I hear that's happening possibly soon in the auto, because the cars are so expensive. The first house I purchased, not that I have many houses, but the first house I purchased was it 150,000, and interest rates were at 10%, so it was like $1,000 whatever per month. But now I see people buy a car, or the rates, because I've done tons of car commercials, used to be $300-400 was the peak, and now you go to over $1,000 for a car that's going to be useless to you in 6-7 years of 10 years of payments.
And that's why they're not qualified, because when you go to get a mortgage, they look at your debt to income. So let's say your income's $100,000, just to use round numbers. Your debt should be under 30%, including your car payment and your school debt. That's hard to do. So what they do is they stretch it up. You can get up into the 40% bracket on some loans if you put enough down. But then you don't have enough money to live. You don't have money to put away. You don't have money for emergencies. You're not saving into your 401k. It's all going into the house. And you may not qualify. It's a trap to be in a rental for two reasons. You're not accumulating equity because you're paying off somebody else's mortgage, and you're using the money that you would have to help invest in a house by fixing it up and putting on additions and whatever. And you're using that to buy a second car, and that second car is now a debt. And when you go to eventually buy, you can't qualify because you have too much debt.
Hey, Joe, I'm thinking a lot of the things that when I talk to people important like you and others around the world is they give advice. So I'm thinking of doing a spin-off show for this one called Casual Advice. So I want to get I'm asking maybe one or two questions about it, certain things, and give a quick answer to it. What about people who paid off the house? Should they buy another house and rent it? Or what do you suggest for that? They paid off with the mortgage, are still young enough to live quite a few years.
I can't give financial advice. The first things first, I have to tell you, they have to go see their financial advisor. Mm-hmm. But some of the options they have open to them would be to using some of that equity. There's a 4.0, no, the wrong one. There's a reverse mortgage option, which is interesting to a lot of people. So if your house is paid off, you can do a reverse mortgage on it and use that money, which is a little bit above what a mortgage would be, but a lot less than just borrowing on a credit card, and do other things in your life, like maybe buy another piece of property as an investment. Investment properties kind of tough because they got to bring you back about 1% a month of your investment as realty. But if Berkshire Hathaway thinks this guy that runs that hasn't been wrong too often, and there's a lot of other people putting their money in there. So it's really interesting that we're seeing this much equity, because the other thing that's happening is a transfer of wealth from parental generation to kids generation. So we have, I would say 40% of my business are people who are either gone into the nursing home or higher. And that now throws onto the kids the disposing of the property, getting it ready for disposal. And okay, now the wealth is mine because mom's in a nursing home. Well, if mom's in a nursing home, any decent nursing facility that you're going to go into, because it's all self-insured, you're going to need about $500,000 in equity to cover that person until their money runs out. And after that, they'll be on state benefits. And you can't use the equity up if you're going to need it in order to do something like that. Now, if mom and dad have passed and you're getting the money, or if you have built a lot of equity up in your house, which is really easy to have done over the last 5 years. So we put about 70%. So let's say a $500,000 house went up 70% in the last 5 years. 70% of 500 is bring it up to 850,000. You now have 350,000 more in equity. You could borrow against that and do another investment, or pay something off, or help the kids get started, which is what we're seeing a lot of. We got a lot of kids living with mom and dad because they can't afford a place.
Okay, Joe. Wow, that's a lot of things to think about there. So we have about 3 minutes left. Okay, so again, you're listening to or watching Casual Conversation with the amazing Joe Peters, real estate encyclopedia in the old days, if you know what those are, Wikipedia, whatever. Okay, so but a few minutes, sum up some cool stuff that you want to share with the world or advice. It's up to you. So you have like 2.5 minutes left now. So go. Action.
As inflation goes down, so is going to be the interest rates, because it will affect that 10-year bond. And with interest rates going down, sales are going to increase. So there's going to be a perfect time to put your house on the market. And this is a really good time. So it could even be better yet down the pike, but it's going to have more competition. So the earlier you put your house into this pool and get it sold, if you are going to sell it, once again, talk to a financial advisor first, the better off you're going to be. Secondly, I think we're going to expect to see price rates in New Jersey of about 4 to 5% for the next year, and maybe 3 to 4 the year after, and 2 to 3 the. I don't think we're going minus, because we're still more buyers than sellers. So in effect, we're going to see increases. We're just not going to see the craziness we saw over the last 5 years. So the quicker you get into a market, the more equity you're going to build. And the rental is a trap from two directions. One is, I can show you on paper that no matter if you're 1 year into a rental, 10 years into a rental, 20 years into a rental, you're going to have 5% of the equity or net personal income net worth, I guess is the best description, as somebody who bought a house, because they're getting equity built up. That's part of the American dream. That's the white picket fence we always talked about. You put 10% down, maybe even 5%, but you get equity rise on the whole 100%. So that's leverage. So I don't see the prices going up much. I do see interest rates dropping. I think next year we'll get into the high fives, maybe mid fives. But we have four things to consider when you buy a house. That's the principal, the interest, the taxes, and the insurance. Well, the taxes and insurance rose up with the values, so they're very expensive today. And I've just had two people had to put a new roof on because the insurance company wouldn't take an insurance policy till you put a binder on a new roof. It's getting even more difficult and expensive to buy a new house. But there's no time like the present. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, you need to associate yourself with somebody that you're comfortable with. Somebody who's probably not a family member, because it's really hard to get mad at a family member. And get into the market and start looking. The last couple I worked with, It took us 7 months before we had to make 3 different offers before we got the one we wanted accepted. And in order to do that, we had to do a lot of creative thinking finance wise. So it sometimes takes the combination of a realtor, your financial advisor, and a good mortgage person to get you positioned ready to pounce when that right house comes on the market. If you're a seller and you're just wondering, I'm a wonderful person to talk with, because it usually takes you 4 to 6 months of thinking about it before you get your house on the market. And while you're thinking about it, you can fix the 2 or 3 things that will give you money back, and you'll know which things you shouldn't fix because you're not going to get the money back. For instance, if you put a new kitchen in the house, you're going to probably get 50 cents on the dollar. And it won't be the kitchen every person wants anyway. It's better off to reduce the price a little and get the house sold. That's what a realtor can do for you.
Well,
It's Joe Peters. It's the numbers on the top. My site's up there. It's 908-304-4660. And jpeters.com is my real estate site. My office is in Warren, New Jersey, where all the flags are. And I live in Hunterdon County in Clinton. That's about 20 miles apart. And I do both counties very thoroughly, to the extent that if you're looking in one of those 2 counties, I've probably bought and sold multiple houses with people in your very community.
All right, Joe. Time to wrap this up. We went over the limit a little bit, so I'm gonna have to cut something out, one of your jokes or something. But that's okay. It's very casual around here, as we say, the conversations, and I'm hearing from people, learning all the great information you have. What kind of feedback do you get from people who listen to or watch or wonderful appearances?
Well, a lot of people look at it, and I track my hits on the site every day. And it's interesting when I do something. I'm getting a lot of hits in Somerset County. I usually get equal hits in Hunterdon and Somerset County. Right now, I'm getting a lot more interest in Somerset County, so it must be a bustling county. I think one of the other things, I don't want to get off on a tangent again, but where do we have enough people, and where's pharma? It's Somerset County, and bringing people in for the pharma jobs it's important. Legal immigration, where people are coming in to take the pharma jobs. It all blends together into a big picture. So, Kaz, I come back every quarter because it works. I do get positive feedback from people just by them looking at it and contacting me as a result of it. And I appreciate you taking the time with me.
Well, I think we're a great combination, giving amazing information out to the world. So once again, joepeters.com, 908-304-4660. And call him up, talk to him, email him, watch his own podcast. He's got a great newsletter he'll send out to you and everything. And Joe, thanks again for being a great guest on Cazual Conversations. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.